Namaskar, Rakshak from NFL Masala here. Hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful Saturday evening. And welcome to Season 3, Episode 12 of NFL Masala, where we talk about all the latest happenings in the NFL with a little bit of spice. As you see today, I am going to be going solo today because my co-host Anant is busy at the moment. But he will be back to talk about week 1 of the regular season. That is right. We are basically 5-6 days away from week 1 of the NFL. But before we talk about the AFC North Division, our very last division to break down, we have some Damakadar news to talk about. So let's get right into it. So the first news today, this was according to Adam Schefter and Todd Archer. This was reported on August 26th. For more information. With this, the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, he has ended his holdout and agreed to a 4-year, $136 million deal that makes him the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And the deal includes a $38 million signing bonus, which is the largest ever given to a wide receiver, and $100 million guaranteed per sources. And he was set to play in 2024 on the $17.99 million fifth-year option of his rookie deal and to become a free agent. But the Cowboys were able to lock him up, and he'll extend through the 2028 season. That means he is now part of a list of wide receivers that have gotten deals that includes Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Tyreek Hill. And prior to that, he had missed training camp and 3 preseason games because he wanted to get paid. Lamb, by missing those set of series, Lamb could be fined more than $3 million. But they have the ability to rescind that penalty since he was on his rookie contract. So I think definitely he comes in at a right time, because had he sat out of the season, it would have been, the Cowboys would have had a questionable offense, and we'll get. And if you wanted to talk about that, let's look at the Cowboys roster really quickly. Or excuse me, the depth chart. 1 second. There it is. So if you were to look at the roster, you would have at the depth chart, without CeeDee Lamb, you're entering the season with Brandon Cooks, Jalen Brooks, Cavante Turpin, Jalen Tolbert, and Ryan Flournoy. So I don't know if you can provide that much confidence, but hey, I mean, you got Zeke Elliott, Rico Dwaddle, and yes, Dalvin Cook coming in. And signing as a in the practice squad. I mean, it does give you some depth, but without CeeDee Lamb, this offense for Dak Prescott definitely doesn't work. And yes, some Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, they've done their things, but that's fine. But other than that, this is definitely a huge boon for the Cowboys. So congrats to CeeDee Lamb on getting us money. On to the next set of news. There was a trade that happened on August 27th. This is according to NFL.com, and according to Tom Pelissero, NFL Network insider, the Tennessee Titans, as part of their 53-man roster cuts, they made a trade with the LA Rams. They acquired linebacker Ernest Jones in exchange, and a 2026 6th-round pick from the Rams in exchange for a 2026 5th-round pick. So with that, I think they had some conversations. The Rams had some conversations in the recent days because Ernest Jones was approaching his 5th-year option of his rookie deal. So luckily they were able to find a partner. And a little bit about Ernest Jones, third round pick in 2021. He has been like a tackling machine. 114 takedowns in 2022, 145 tackles, and 4.5 sacks in 2023. He also played a key role in that Super Bowl victory by getting 7 tackles, 3 QB hits, a sack, and 2 tackles for a loss, and a pass defended against Cincinnati. And and I think like it was the writing was on the wall for Ernest Jones, especially when you had the rookie Omar Speights coming over, and and I think and but what's more important is that the Titans, they are able to secure that linebacking position, that linebacker depth, and you put Ernest Jones in a defense with Kenneth Murray, Harold Landry, and it provides it provides a little bit more confidence in it, especially and with Arden Key coming from injury, and then and then going and it kind of works in that 3-4 defense, so it does work out. So congratulations, Ernest Jones. The third bit of news is, according to the AP Associated Press, the Washington Commanders have made one big change. No, it's not for another player, although they did get Noah Brown from the from the waivers after the 53-man cuts. The Washington Commanders home field is renamed from FedEx Field to North after the team announced a agreement with Northwest Federal Credit Union. So they announced an 8-year deal to rename the place that was known as FedEx Field from 1999 until several months ago. And FedEx ended its naming rights agreement in February, 2 years before it was set to expire. And it was temporarily known as the Commanders Field. So I think this one is worth more on average than the 7.5 million annually paid FedEx paid for naming rights under the previous $205 million agreement. This is according to a spokesman. I'm reading this from the AP and NFL.com. But yes, it is now. Yes, so basically, this is basically, FedEx Field is being renamed to Northwest Federal Field, Credit Union Field. So, good job on that. And last but not least, there was an owners meeting, and it's a very strange rule, and this is where I have to talk about this. And while I'm looking at the other way, so on Tuesday afternoon, NFL owners they voted to approve a measure they voted to approve a measure that allows private equity funds to buy stakes or small stakes in teams. So basically, it's a huge shift in the NFL ownership rules, which until now they've allowed a team to have limited partners, but never allowed like institutional investments. So it means that you have access very soon to hundreds of $millions of cash for owners who want to sell a small portion of their team in a private equity fund. But however, we have to basically know that any changes the way the franchises run that are noticeable or meaningful to fans, it is not that equity fund is not going to buy an entire NFL team. So I think like with that, like if you want to talk a little bit more about this, I think NFL.com has has something. So let me just quickly share this screen. So what this means is, so the ground rules is that basically that the NFL has been thinking about private equity for 5 years. They got very serious about it. So a total of 10% of a team can be owned by private equity funds. The NFL has already vetted the private equity funds that will be allowed to do transactions with a list of teams. So they've included such a list. And this is apparently there's no voting power attached to the transaction, and a franchise can have limit to that. So I'm not going to go more into the details about it. This can be found on NFL.com from this. And with that being said, we are on to the final division to break down. That is the AFC North. And we will start with the Cincinnati Bengals. How do we summarize this season? Well, I could say it with one word alone. Basically, it was a big struggle for the Bengals. They initially got it off to that shaky start. They found some groove, but then Joe Burrow got injured. He entered in that week 11 game in Baltimore with an obvious issue in his throwing hand, and then he gets hurt. Then, yes, Jake Browning did his best to try and take over, but not good enough. It was like what happened to them, whatever went wrong got wrong, what could go wrong went wrong. And it was, and like they ended their season. I mean, they basically went 9-8. They had a winning record, but the injury game, that was the big thing. But like what was kind of decent was like the Jake Browning was decent. They had like some of the veterans to play, but also what went wrong? Injuries. And the rookies that was the rookie, especially Jordan Battle, drafted in the 3rd round from Alabama, safety. He had 71 tackles, 43 solo, 2 sacks, and 1 interception. He was well round. And and if you wanted to talk a little bit more about stat friendlies, let's take a look at DVOA. Cincinnati, even though they went 9-8, they were ranked number 11 in DVOA compared to 6 the previous year. In offensive wise, they were they were ranked number 11 with 5.5% offensive DVOA, but their defense was ranked number 23rd with 3.1%. So, I mean, looking at this number wise, it did fall off, especially with like dealing with the culmination of injuries from on the offensive side. So, what were some of the changes that they had to make? Let's get through that list because it is a lot. Some of the players that they brought in, though, it was pretty interesting, like especially getting to reinforce that offensive line. They got Trenton Brown, right tackle from New England, Mike Gesicki, for a 1-year deal from New England, tight end, and they were able to get T. Higgins to sign a 1-year, $21.816 million franchise tag. They put T. Higgins on a franchise tag so they could secure it. They were able to grab Von Bell from safety, a strong safety, box safety from Carolina for a 1-year deal. They were able to take Geno Stone 2 years for a 2-year deal from Baltimore to come to Cincinnati. So basically, you see an AFC North switching from one rival team to another rival team. Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle, who was part of that Texans defense that surprised everyone when they made that push to the playoffs for a 2-year deal. That definitely helps out. Zach Moss, he was picked up from the Colts for a minimum 2-year deal. The extensions that they made: Evan McPherson, their good kicker, 3-year, $14 million. Ted Karras, center, 1-year, $6 million. Drew Sample, 3-year, $10.5 million. extension. Trayvon Williams, running back, 1-year deal. Cody Ford, one thing. And then, yes, they did get the reason why they got Zach Moss because during this offseason, they made a trade with the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans got Joe Mixon. They're basically their leading rusher. In exchange, Cincinnati got a 2024 7th-round pick. They used it to get a draft pick, which I will come back to them later. But there were a lot of people that left that they had to cut or that were let go. Starting with Chidobe Awuzie, one of their starting corners. He leaves Cincinnati and signs a 3-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. Then you have Jonah Williams, right tackle, 2-year deal with the Cardinals. And I'm only going to talk about the big names because there was a lot of people that they're missing out. But a couple of big ones. Number one, Tyler Boyd. Basically, wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 behind the Chase and the Higgins, behind the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So Tyler Boyd signs a 1-year, $2.4 million deal with the Tennessee Titans. Tremendous help. And then you have DJ Reader, defensive tackle, signs a 2-year deal, $22 million deal with the Lions. Another big one, Irv Smith Jr., who didn't do that much for the Bengals. He signs with the Chiefs for a 1-year, $1.3 million, just to sit behind Travis Kelce. And I think those are like some of the major big signings. So I'll just leave it as that. But and with that, they did make some coaching changes. The Bengals did hire they did finalize their 2024 coaching staff by getting with Zach. First of all, Zach Taylor was going to be returning. He's going to return for his 6th year with the Bengals. New hires, they got Jordan Salkin, offensive assistant, Ronnie Regula, defensive assistant, and Ben Jacobs, special teams assistant. And for internal promotions, they managed to get Brad Gragthorpe to quarterbacks coach and Jordan Kovac to safeties coach. In other changes, was Justin Raskety, who previously worked with the Vikings. He was added as a passing game coordinator. And then a special name some Bengals fans already know, Lou Anarumo. He was named the defensive coordinator, and Joey Bosa was named defensive player performance and head strength and coaching, head strength and conditioning. So, I mean, it was more of continuity and what could possibly be maintained. But let's talk about their draft pick, about what Cincinnati did in order to make for their draft picks wise. So, number one, for their first round pick, they went into the offensive line and they got Amarius Mims, right tackle from the big boy tackle from Georgia. You put him. I mean, of course, he did struggle with injuries, but he's a fantastic athlete, and you get to you have him behind Trent Brown, and to learn from. Definitely, he was drafted for the future. And then you get 2nd round pick. They get Chris Jenkins, interior defensive lineman from Michigan, from that Michigan team that won the college football championship. Jenkins, apparently strong pound per pound player in the draft, 87.2 run defensive grade since 2022. And he was ranked 5th among Power 5 interior defenders, while his 82.7 PFF grade in 2023 ranked 3rd among Big Ten interior defenders. Brilliant. And then number 3, they go 3rd round. They go Jermaine Burton, wide receiver from Alabama. I mean, he did not drop any of his 57 targets this past season. He can complement Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on day one because of his playmaking ability. And the second third round pick, they go with defensive interior McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M. Basically, you're going to see him as a nose tackle or three technique in a 4-3 defensive scheme. He's more of a one gap penetrator. And then with picks 4, they go tight end Eric All from Iowa. So I mean, you basically find a long-term starter in the 4th round. I'm guessing that's for depth. No, and then the late rounds, they go number 5. For round 5, they go Josh Newton, corner from TCU. So he was ranked 12th among Big 12 cornerbacks, 87.7 PFF grade combined over the past 2 seasons. Only allowed 1 touchdown. With 2 6th-round picks. First one they got was another tight end, Tanner McLachlan from Arizona. And they go edge, Cedric Johnson from Ole Miss. Basically, in his final season, he was very productive at Ole Miss. 850 pass rushing snaps over the past 3 seasons, racked up 107 QB pressures, 13 sacks. And then for the final draft picks for the last 2 7th rounders they got, they took safety Dejon Anthony and center Matt Lee. Dejon Anthony only allowed 1 touchdown in 2023 when he was an Ole Miss, and they managed to get center Matt Lee from Miami, Florida. Ranked 10th in FBS centers in PFF grade. He didn't allow a single sack and 414 pass blocking snaps. So overall, a good draft for the Bengals. So my season expectations, it all depends on the Bengals staying healthy, especially Joe Burrow. And secondary has to be better than last year if they want to even try and compete for the AFC North or even make a decent playoff run. And another thing is they got to pay Jamar Chase, who has been sitting out for some time. You got to pay the man because he is like your best player. And last but not least, they have to go the record and result. I say 13. Here are my following predictions. They go 13-4 as their ceiling, but 12-5 is the floor for them. They could compete for the AFC North, but it's going to be a big fight between the Ravens and the Browns at the end. Maybe you go wild card at best, and you might lose in the division round, or even in the wild card. Shandar play of the year, Joe Burrow. Nothing else. The next team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to give a shout out to Urinating Tree. What a legend. With that, how do we go about it? They fired Matt mid-season during the season, even with an ineptitude offensive coordinator under Matt Canada. They went through another long non-losing season under Mike Tomlin. Leader of men, the Steelers still somehow stumbled themselves into the playoffs with the Jacksonville Jaguars choking. Absolutely choking, and they lost into the wild card in the end by the Bills. I mean, if you wanted to talk about the Steelers' season overall, it was a mix of. It was a mix of Kenny Pickett was playing good. You had Mason Rudolph. Oh no, Mitch Trubisky had to step in a couple of times. I mean, it was a big quarterback mess. But in the end, the Steelers were able to make it to 10-7. And I would never understand this to the day. I mean, yeah, Mason Rudolph played. Mason Rudolph took over, but at the end of the season. But oh my goodness, if you wanted to talk some bit, I don't know if I could like find any stats about this team, but it was mediocre. It was a bit of mediocre at best because this was a Matt Canada type of offense. 1 second. I think I may have found something. I mean, if you wanted to talk about stats, last year, Kenny Pickett only played like 12 games, led the team with 2,070 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. What? And their leading rusher was Najee Harris for 1,035. I mean, this is too depressing to even read about this. And if we wanted to go dig more into this, how ineptitude of an offense, we got to take a look at some DVOA. And if you want to go to the DVOA route, the Steelers were ranked number 9. They were ranked 9th in DVOA. I am not joking you. Offensive wise, they were ranked 15th, which is mid. But the only way that they were able to get through was because of that high-end talent of the Steelers. That is Steelers defense, which was ranked 6th in DVOA. They were one of the best defense. They had a really good defense, which was led by a man known as TJ Mother effing Watt, brother of soon-to-be Hall of Famer JJ Watt. And I mean, if you wanted to, and just a little bit of that, TJ Watt played a full healthy season, 48 solo tackles, 68 total tackles, 19 sacks, 8 passes defended, 1 interception, which he took for 24 yards. 4 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 1 fumble return for a touchdown. TJ Watt is the sole reason why the Steelers defense was so damn good. It's not that hard. It's insane. But then again, it's just amazing to see how they were able to pull it off. But let's get into what they did in free agency. Some of the players they brought in, they managed to get some weapons like Cordell Patterson, running back from Atlanta. And not only from Atlanta, they managed to get Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller, and Michael Pruitt, 2 wide receivers and a tight end respectively, all in 1-year deals. And then you get Patrick, and then they steal another rival from Baltimore. I mean, there's been some back and forth with the AFC North. I mean, you have Patrick Queen, inside linebacker. I thought that was a great pickup for a 3-year, $41 million deal. And then they also take from Buffalo some backup tight end, backup linebackers, and Tyler Matakevich inside for a 1-year deal. And then they get, and I can't believe I'm saying this. They managed to pull out the moves to get Mr. Unlimited himself, Russell Wilson. What's going, y'all? What's going, y'all? Russell Wilson from Steelers country, baby. I can't wait to lead this offense, and it's gonna be so unlimited right here. Steelers country, let's weld. And I mean, it's just insane. And they were able to get Cameron Sutton corner from Pittsburgh, from Detroit for a 1-year deal. Cameron Johnston, good punter. And LaMichael Pirine, running back from Kansas City. Deshaun Elliott, safety from Miami. Dean Lowry from the Vikings, defensive end. And they managed to get a former Eagles wide receiver and legend in Quez Watkins, who recently who got cut by the Steelers. So some of the play, I mean, I didn't get to see that much of extensions, but we did have some. But what happened was that there were some some players that went out. Number one, Mitch Trubisky, their backup quarterback, goes to the Bills for a 2-year deal. They did lose a tackle in Chukwuma Okafor, Okorafor for tackle. Mason Rudolph, their backup QB, goes to the Titans. Allen Robinson to the Giants. Wide receiver Levy Wallace, Miles Boykin, James Pierce, Elijah Riley, Mikhail Walker, and Chapel Russell. But there were a couple of trades that they made. Number one, they traded away Kenny Pickett. Their oh, and I think I forgot to tell you this. They one of the pickups that they managed to get was Justin Fields from the Chicago Bears. So I think like he was traded to Steelers in exchange for a conditional 6th round pick in the 2025 NFL draft and a potential 4th round pick if he plays 51% of the team snaps. And they declined his 5th-year option. So, but going back to some of the trades that they made, they traded with the Philadelphia Eagles, Kenny Pickett. So Philadelphia traded a 3rd round selection and 2 2025 7th round selections to the Steelers in exchange for Kenny Pickett and the Steelers' 4th round selection. And then they made a trade with the LA Rams. The Rams traded their 4th round selection and a 2025 5th round pick selection to the Steelers in exchange for guard Kevin Dotson and a 5th-year selection and a 2025 6th round. And last but not least, the Panthers traded a 6th round pick and cornerback Dante Jackson to the Steelers in exchange for a 7th round pick and wide receiver Deontay Johnson. So those were some of the trades that they made. The Steelers, they also made several coaching changes for the 2024 season. Offensive coordinator is no longer Matt Canada, thank God, but instead you go with Arthur Smith. Yes, that Arthur Smith who neglected to use Bijan Robinson a lot last year when he was with the Falcons. He was brought in as the new offensive coordinator under Mike Tomlin. Quarterback's coach is going to be Tom Arth. He previously worked with the Chargers and as a passing game specialist. Wide receiver coach, you got Zach. Excuse me. You got new wide receivers coach Zach Azani. Senior offensive assistant Mike Sullivan. He was changed to senior offensive assistant. Strength and conditioning coach Phil Matus was hired as the strength and conditioning coach. He previously had that same role at Boston College. And offensive assistant Matteo Cambui was named. But all that's great. Let's talk about the draft that the Steelers had. They managed to get 7 picks in the NFL draft. The first one, in the first round, they managed to get Troy Fautanu, tackle from Washington. I mean, there was a question whether he could play inside or outside, but he could mainly play left tackle, which is his natural position. He ranked 15 in PFF's final big board and 5th among FBS's tackles this past season. Then in their second round, they managed to get center for Zach Frazier. Their first 2 picks, they went with the mantra: build through the trenches, build through the trenches, build through the trenches. Zach Frazier, center from West Virginia. Four-time high school. He was a four. Did you know he was a four-time state high school wrestling champion? It's 84.6 PFF grade since 2021, ranked third among FBS centers. Owns just a 2.27% pressure percentage allowed over the same span. Then in the third round, they managed to get two picks. First one was wide receiver Roman Wilson from Michigan. I really liked him as a wide receiver. He could play slot, although small wise, he is. I mean, he has great hands, one drop in 67 targets, nice 90th percentile separation. He easily puts in that replacement for Deontay Johnson, and he's electrifying downfield with that explosiveness. And then they go linebacker with their second, third round pick with Peyton Wilson from North Carolina State. Um, I mean, Wilson, I mean, we all know about Peyton Wilson. Although the injuries do present a risk, but if he was healthy, like as you saw in 2023, 89.9% overall grade, 90.4% in coverage. Health is the biggest question mark, but he's very athletic, has the length and intelligent. Then the fourth round pick, they go with guard Mason McCormick from South Dakota State. Again, going back to the offensive trenches, grabbing a third lineman. I thought that was a very good move. 90.3 PFF grade, best among FBS guards. And then there are two sixth-round picks to go defensive end Logan Lee from Iowa and corner Ryan Watts from UT Austin. And let's talk about Logan Lee, defensive interior. He was ranked 11th against the run last season, and he was ranked 5th among Big Ten defensive tackles in the run defense. Run defensive grade of 80.4 and 4th in quarterback pressures, which he had 28. And going with Ryan Watts, you add size. He only allowed one touchdown from 267 coverage snaps and brings that physicality the Steelers fans will definitely love. He also puts up an 84.9% run defensive grade over the last 2 years, second among Big Ten cornerbacks in that span. That is just a good draft. Well done by the Steelers on this one. And my expectations for the Steelers, my God, I think they're going to find a way to get to another winning season under Tomlin, thanks to the voodoo and the bullshit that is Steelers football. Well, I mean, they can go 9-8, but if they even, best of all, it's going to be 9-8 because we have to see how Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson can make this offense work. And having Van Jefferson, I mean, if you want to take a look at the depth chart, it's not too promising. I mean, having George Pickens, Van Jefferson, and Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, Roman Wilson, while having like a set of 4 tight ends, it's in Pratt Fryermuth, Darnell Washington, Connor Haywood, Michael Pruitt. I just don't know about this offense. And plus, it's not even going to help Justin Fields if he has to step onto the field for some plays. So I think the only way that they will get through this is if they rely on that high-end talent. And, I mean, if they even make it to the playoffs and win a wild card, I'm going to laugh my ass off for sure. And, yes, Steelers got a Super Bowl. That's that in the words of Urinating Tree. But, I mean, but honestly, they go 9-8. They can try and make a presence for the wild card with some help, but 9-8's best. Shandar Play of the Year, you got to go with TJ Watt. What more can you do? Some people could say Russell Wilson. Because of like he's in a new system. He can definitely help it out, right? He could definitely say that, but I don't think that's gonna be it. Next, we have the Cleveland Browns. All I could say, this was a very, very interesting team to look at because the Browns, other than the injuries with Deshaun, uh, all, so all I could say is with some injuries, the defense literally carried this Browns team into the playoffs. And they were also at one point led by the legend that was Joe effing Flacco. Yes, Joe Flacco had to come in for Deshaun Watson, who was not playing too well and at some cases injured. Like, it, it was so bad. I mean, there were plenty of ups and downs. That is for sure. But with that, but if I wanted to talk a little bit more about injuries were the biggest plague. Um, I mean, it started with their linebacker Jacob Phillips, pectoral injury for the second straight season, and then Deshaun, and then you lose all their right tackle Jack Conklin. Remainder of the season with a torn ACL and MCL. Nick Chubb getting hurt. I mean, it was enough. But the Browns, but like all we could talk about is that defense, led by Myles Garrett and Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator. I mean, without those guys, the Browns would not have managed to win 11 games and make it to the postseason with five different starting quarterbacks during the entire course of the season. I mean, Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, did a great job in managing this, and Jim Schwartz with the defensive schemes. I mean, you had Jeremiah Owuzu-Kamaru in linebacker. He led the team for tackles on the season with 98. Myles Garrett led the team with sacks. I mean, this was like division of task by at its best, and I mean they made it to the wild card round. They lost to the Texans 45-14, but there is some sight. During the offseason, they managed to get a bunch of players, which is why I'm going to go shorten it down for a bit. Devin Bush, linebacker. Quinn Jefferson from Seattle. Quinn Jefferson, defensive tackle and Justin Hardy, defensive tackle and corner, respectively, both from the Jets. They managed to grab Cade York, kicker from the Giants. And then they go Jameis Winston, quarterback from the Saints, and they grab Jordan Hicks, linebacker from the Vikings, for a 2-year deal. And then I thought some other good moves that I liked was getting Dante Foreman, running back from Chicago, Naheem Hines, running back from Buffalo, and backup QB Tyler Huntley from the Ravens. I'm sensing a trend with all these AFC North teams trading back and forth and all that. And I think and if you want to talk about extensions, I mean, let's first talk about this one. Jerry Jeudy. I thought that was one of the biggest I thought that was like one of the biggest acquisitions that they've gotten for this offense. I mean, you could pair Jerry Jeudy with Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman, Jamar Trash, and David Bell. Ooh, that's gonna be stupid amount of speed and hands ability. So yes, Jeremiah Owusu-Kamaru, 3-year, $37.5 million contract extension. He was like your best linebacker. Then Dustin Hopkins, kicker, 3-year, $15.9 million. Jerry Jeudy, yes. So back to Jerry Jeudy, 3-year, $52.5 million contract extension. I think that's for the minimum after like a disappointing season with the season with the Broncos. But I mean, he a change in scenery may help out for him, and he can actually play more, and he can actually play more in the playoffs. There's that, and now you have players that were out. So let's keep it short. Sione Takitaki, linebacker, goes to the Patriots for a 2-year deal. Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle, 2 years with the Niners. Then you saw Joe and some of the big names like Joe Flacco. QB leaves for a 1-year deal with the Colts. Nick Harris, center, goes to the Seahawks. Harrison Bryant, tight end. He goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. Um, some other notable losses. Not that much. Nothing that was noteworthy of it. But the Browns, they did make some changes. We got to talk about this. So they managed to grab Ted Dorsey to be their new offensive coordinator. Ken Dorsey. He spent the last 5 seasons with the Bills. Then also they added Tommy Rees as tight ends pass game specialist. He was the and in 2023 he was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide. They helped them win the SEC championship game. And then as their running backs coach, they get a familiar name in Deuce Staley. He was in 2023. He coached the running backs for the Panthers and also back in the years he was with the Lions and hopped around other teams. Most notably, he's a former running back for the Eagles who also won a ring when he was the Eagles running back staff. So I always have a special soft for him. Then they got Jacques Cesser as defensive line coach. Alex Van Pelt, he has left the Brown. So they had to let go. So the Browns let go of Alex Van Pelt as their offensive coordinator. They parted ways with Stump Mitchell as the running backs coach, and TJ McCarthy, he parted ways as the tight ends coach. So I thought it was very noticeable to see some of the draft change, the moves that they made, but we got to talk about some of their draft picks that they went with. I thought again, very interesting draft. They only went with 7 players. I think that's like it's 6 players. Second round, they get defensive interior Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State. He basically doesn't leave the state of Ohio. Goes from Columbus to Cleveland. So, I mean, he's basically a high upside interior pass rusher. Goes part of that nasty looking defense. Then they get guard Zach Zinter from Michigan. I thought that was interesting because Zinter was out. He suffered a big nasty leg injury in the final regular season game. Kept him out of pre-draft workouts, but I'm guessing they dropped him for the future, so he basically doesn't need to do. So basically it's a depth move. 5th round, they go wide receiver Jamari Trash from Louisville. Wide receiver. So Trash had 17 missed tackles in 2023. It ranked 4th in the ACC. 1,658 yards after catch since 2022 is the best mark of all receivers. So another weapon to add. Then 6th round, they go linebacker Nathaniel Watson from Mississippi State. Strong linebacker. He doesn't miss tackles. He's improved his tenure at Mississippi State. Career best 73.1 PFF grade. And then their last 2 picks, they go corner Miles Harden from South Dakota and defensive interior Jawan Briggs from Cincinnati. Miles Harden, okay, secondary depth, and Jawan Briggs from Cincy. He's been like all nearly played like everywhere, like outside of his position. So I so he's far better when he was using like more A or B gaps. So it'd be very interesting to see how Jim Schwartz formulates or like scopes out his defense. So season expectation, defense is literally going to carry this team, but Deshaun Watson, you have like your best weapons like coming back like from injury, like David Njoku, Nick Chubb for the midseason, um, Jerry Judy, extending Amari Cooper. You got no excuse, and you can make it a dogfight and try and compete for the AFC North or the wild card spot. But I say they go 11-6 at best. Shandar Play of the Year, Myles Garrett, and I think he will repeat as NFL Defensive Player of the Year or the NFL Defensive Player of the Year candidate. That's what it'll be. And I think they can make it a dogfight. It's going to be a dogfight to clinch for the AFC North, which leaves us to our last but not least AFC North team, the Baltimore Ravens. They improved last year from 10-7 to 13-4. You won the AFC North Division. You technically clinched the number 1 seed. But then again, you lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Lamar Jackson was dog shit that game. And you lose to the effing Chiefs. And the Chiefs go on to win the Super Bowl the game after. Lamar Jackson won Lamar Jackson won the season NFL MVP. But what is the one thing he could not deliver where it mattered the most? He choked. He choked big time. It was painful. That is all I can say. But if you wanted to talk about DVOA, let's talk about that for a bit. The Ravens were ranked number 1 in DVOA. They had the 4th ranked offense, and they had the overall number 1 best defensive DVOA. 4th in offense, 1 in defense, 1 overall. Yet they still couldn't go to the Super Bowl. They could not beat the Chiefs. And that is going to be the biggest question mark on Lamar Jackson. Like, is he going to be that kind of guy, like, that can lead the team, that can, like, get this team over the hump? So what did they have to do in the offseason? Well, they brought in some players. I think one of the biggest acquisitions that they got was getting running back from the Tennessee Titans, Derrick Henry, for a 2-year deal, 2 year, $16 million. Then they got they managed to bring back a majority of like 1-year deals from like wide receiver Russell Gage, like a tackle in Josh Jones, tackle from Houston, Kadar Holland from corner from Houston, Eddie Jackson for free safety from Chicago, Deontay Harty, wide receiver from Buffalo. Some of the well-known names and some of the extensions that I really liked, getting a 2-year, $12.87 million extension for Rashad Bateman, wide receiver, Justin Madubuike, defensive tackle, 4-year, $98 million extension for the way that he played. This guy, he because of how he played, he earned a Pro Bowl and a second-team All-Pro. Nelson Aguilar, there's an Eagles name. 1 year, $3.75 million. Defensive tackle Michael Pierce, 2 year, $7.5 million. But there were a lot of players that went to other teams. Let's stop. And let's cover some of the big ones. Patrick Queen, 3-year inside linebacker. He goes to the Steelers for a 3-year deal. Jadeveon Clowney on the edge goes to the Panthers for a 2-year deal. Geno Stone, 2-year deal to the Bengals. John Simpson, guard to the Jets, 2-year deal. Devin Duvernay and Ronald Darby. Duvernay, wide receiver, Darby, corner. 2 year, both of them 2 year deals to the Jaguars. Running back Gus Edwards, running back 2 year deal to the Chargers, and then you had a couple of one year deals. Guard Kevin Zeitler to the Lions, Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver to the Dolphins, Deshaun Phillips, inside linebacker to Texans, 1 year deal. J.K. Dobbins, running back, 1 year to the Chargers. Tyler Huntley, backup QB, 1 year to the Browns, and corner Rock Yasin, corner 1 year deal, and Laquan Treadwell 1 year deal to the wide receiver to the what wide receiver to the Colts. But did they? But in regards of making any trades, nothing that was there. But oh yeah, they did lose So yes, Morgan Moses did get released, and Dalvin Cook, most notably, he's now with the Cowboys practice squad. Now, some of the coaching changes that they made several changes. New defense coordinator is Zach Orr. He was promoted from the inside linebackers coach to defensive coordinator. He because they had to let because Mike McDonald defensive. So with that, let's simplify this. Mike McDonald, their defensive coordinator, he's now with the Seattle Seahawks. Zach Orr is the replacement. Denard Wilson, defensive backs coach, he is now going to be the new defensive backs coach, the defensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. Mike Devlin, assistant O-line coach, he left to join the Chargers. Anthony Weaver becomes the defensive coordinator for the Dolphins. So these were some of the losses, but the new coach. So the new people that they're able to bring in was Mark DeLone, inside linebackers coach, Dennis Johnson, defensive line coach, Doug Mallory, defensive backs coach, and Travell Wharton, assistant offensive line coach. Zach Orr was promoted from inside linebacking core to defensive coordinator. And with this, I will be back. And we're back. One second. All right, and we're back. So so with that, the rate after making such big acquisition, after making some changes on the roster and the coaching staff, the Ravens did come out in the draft, and I thought they were excellent. Their first round pick, they go cornerback Nate Wiggins. He, well, to play along, you put him next to Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton in that secondary. Secondary is just going to get even better. I mean, he was impressive in the preseason. I mean, especially week one. If I looked at preseason week one against the Eagles, Nate Wiggins was covering John Ross, and he made it look so easy. And I thought like he was next to Quinyon Mitchell, Nate Wiggins, Kamari Lassiter, Tyrion Arnold. He was probably ranked like my third or fourth, but Nate Wiggins from Clemson, great pickup. Um, and then second round, they go with tackle Roger Rosengarten from Washington or UW. They get a starting right tackle. Definitely need to add some strength, but great player and excellent pass protector. Third round, they go edge Adiza Isaac from Penn State. He just needs to work with strength, but he has great handwork to win as a pass rusher. 69 pressures, 13 sacks. Um, then their two fourth round picks. Their first fourth round, they go with wide receiver Devontae Walker, to finally add a wide receiver. Definitely just for depth and somewhat and another weapon for Lamar Jackson to throw to. And then their second fourth round, they go corner again. This time they go TJ Tampa, great in single coverage and his work at Iowa State worked a lot with good defensive snaps, very solid in passing in competition, especially in the Big 12. Um, then fifth round, they go running back Rasheen Ali from Marshall. I thought that was an interesting pick. He did have rack up over 1,100 rush yards in both in 2021 and 2023, or the last three seasons. You add him next to Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell. Oh, that's gonna be deadly. Then they go sixth round. They go backup quarterback Devin Leary, quarterback from Kentucky. Basically, you got to address quarterback in the late and in the future. They basically add in some depth. And then their last two picks, they go center Lick Samek from Michigan State. I mean, Samek allowed 1 sack and 13 total pressures in 345 pass blocking reps in 2023. And center, and the last pick to go secondary again in Sanusi Kane from Purdue. I think he's mainly going to be used as a special teams player, but I thought another solid draft for the Ravens, but I think what they're doing, addressing the secondary a lot in this draft, shows the reason of trying to go younger and to do their best to at least contain or beat out the Chiefs, who they'll actually see in week 1. So it's going to be a rematch of the AFC championship game, or spoiler warning, it could be a preview of round 2. But season expectations for them, you're going to be fighting for the AFC North and the number 1 spot for the playoffs. Possible loss, I think you could possibly lose in the AFC Championship game against the effing Chiefs. That's kind of guaranteed. But yeah. But then again, you have to look at new defensive look under Zach Orr. But however, he was a former linebackers coach who was incredible with helping with Roquan Smith. Excuse me. Pardon me. With Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen being playing at their absolute best. They played with their heads on fire. And I think they could make it to the AFC Championship game. Against the Chiefs, they'll slightly lose this game. But if they win, I'm happy to be wrong. So their record and results, I have them going 13-4 being the floor. But I say their ceiling can be 15-2 because because that defense and that secondary is going to be a lot more scarier and young, and Lamar Jackson's going to be he's going to be hungry to get to the Super Bowl and prove all those doubters wrong. Shandar play of the I am going with cornerback Nate Wiggins. He's a possible NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate. I think he has been a fit. I mean, he has great athleticism, very explosive, good recovery speed. Of course, he kind of looks like he's very slender built, not that okay in run defense, but especially in times in which the offense is going to be the key, and defense, and you need like those fast and durable corners that can match up, that can play man-to-man, that can play zone. Wiggins definitely does that. So it's going to be interesting. So with this, we go to our final division predictions. This is where it gets a lot interesting now. From another side, he has the Bengals going to the AFC divisional game or the conference game. So he has the Bengals going 13-4, the Ravens going 12-5, the Browns going 10-7, and the Steelers going 8-9. And he has the Bengals going to the AFC Championship game and losing to the Texans. That was part of his hope. For me, I have the Ravens going at that 15-2, 13-4 being the ceiling. Then I have the Bengals going 13-4. It's going to be a tie and a slugfest. The 12-5 is at their ceiling. And then I have the Browns going 11-6. And then I have the Steelers going 9-8. Yes, and I have the Ravens going to the AFC Championship game. Slightly, I think it's going to be very close against the Chiefs. And with that being said, this is all of the NFL division breakdowns are finally concluded. And with that being said, if you we just can't wait for week 1 of the NFL regular season. If you want more information and to listen to more of our content, you can check us out on the following platforms. That is Google Podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Pocket Cast. And yes, season 3 is also available on YouTube. So make sure you check those out. If you want to leave us a question, you can email us at nflmasala@gmail.com. That is all lowercase at nflmasala@gmail.com. nflmasala@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on more of our other platforms, you can also check us out on Twitter /X and Instagram, all with the same username at NFLMASALA2022. That is at NFLMASALA2022. And with that being said, thank you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. And in the words of Anand, go Pack Go. And from me, fly Eagles fly. Take care and have a good night.